Okay, welcome everybody. Alright, this is a new nigun that we've been singing here for a while now. Came down the last night of Hanukkah. Some of the Chaver know it. Hanukkah and Purim are very connected. Very simple nigun. Please join me the second you get it. Okay, one more Purim again. Thank you so much. This is one of my favorite parts of every shir. This month is sponsored by the Aaron family, the Avraham family, the Brook family, and the Eisen family, and the Anonymous family. Very deep family, you should know. For the full shlema of all Cholei Yisrael, the shirim today specifically are sponsored by Tal Gilboa and Yaakov Steiner, in appreciation of Rabbi Michael and Phyllis Miller, wishing them much health and happiness in their new home. Okay, so, wow. First of all, thank you everyone for coming. This is like a very nerve-wracking shir. Purim prep, preparing mazeh, Purim prep. Very, 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 very special. It's always special these last few minutes before the fast, before this Yom HaKadosh VeHaNorah. But I've been triggered. My Purim prep got triggered in the last few weeks with the meeting we had here, and I can't stop thinking about the words this person said to me. I've been thinking about it all day, all week. And he said, I really wanna join your shul. We really want to join your shul. There's a problem. So what's the problem? So the person said, I'm not a davener. I'm just not a davener. So you know how honest that is? Before we go and say, oh, never, do you know how real that is? What a real statement. What an emes statement. I want so badly to, but I know who I am. I'm not a davener, this person said. And these are the type of statements that you hear. You don't answer. You don't really give any real straight answers. You daven over it. And I've been davening over this person's statement for quite some time. I've been davening over it a lot. A lot. So tonight's learning is be'etzem the answer to myself of, am I really a davener? In the context of giving Moshe Rabbeinu nachas on Purim. And there's so much to say on the topic, and I at night, bifrat, I'm shocked anyone comes. I'm right? Ellie, come on. It's a pella we have more than like a mezuman. At night, it's especially since the crazy Shirat David Chevra, just non-stop action, these freaks. Every day there's something going on here, right? But it's a humbling thing, but I don't want to bombard you with so many different Mara Makomas for at night. Only 3, don't worry, 3 short ones. But what I want to say is as follows. I have no idea if the end of what I'm going to say is right. I don't know if it's true. The beginning is, because it's not my words. The beginning of what we're going to learn is definitely true, because it's not my words. The end mahalach that I'm building towards, I'm still in the middle of it, and I hope that by Purim it'll be all the way through. But this to me seems to be this inyan of, am I really a davener, and Purim is the time to jump into the sea of becoming a davener, again, in the context of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now you're saying, Purim, ma kesher, Purim, it's Moshe, ma kesher Moshe Rabbeinu. We're talking about Purim over here, nachon? What Moshe Rabbeinu? Let it just be about them. Mordechai and Esther. He's always the star. From Parsha Shmos to the end of the Torah, besides this Shabbos, where he's definitely the star this past Shabbos, but just let it be about Shushan Abir Yid and their thing, their inyan. Well, en ma la'asot, when the Gemara tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu is really the star throughout the story of Purim, because of Haman's excitement when he found out that Moshe Rabbeinu died in the month of Adar, got excited with this Goral, and then the Gemara tells us he just didn't really know that Moshe Rabbeinu was also born in Adar as well. But it doesn't just end there. Think about this for a second. When's Moshe Rabbeinu's birthday? Zayin Adar. What if his bris brim? What's the 8th day? The 8th day from 7 is 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14, which means Purim. Why did you say 15th? It's true. Why did you say 15th? Because Moshe Rabbeinu was born mahul. Moshe Rabbeinu was born circumcised, and that year, Avos de Rabbi Nassan says, that year it came out on Shabbos. So when you only have to do Hatafas Dam Bris Milah, it's nitcha for one day, which means that really the only thing that had to do with this bris was actually the day after. It would have been the 8th day, and that would have been Shushan Purim. So basically, Moshe Rabbeinu is Purim and Shushan Purim. The whole thing of Moshe Rabbeinu's bris is in Purim. The bris, the Iskashus of Moshe Rabbeinu with Purim. And there's so much more to say on this matter of how Moshe Rabbeinu comes in here. Obviously, one of the most exciting psukim that we say that has a great nigun, a lot of great nigunim, Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Habira, and Ish, and obviously the connection, which we're going to see in a second, and Ish, when someone's referred to as an Ish, Va'Ish Moshe Anav Me'od Mikol Adam Asher Pnei Adama. Moshe Rabbeinu, this title of Ish, which could be its own shir on its own, the difference between an Adam and an Ish, Moshe Rabbeinu starring as the Ish, thus coming into Mordechai HaYehudi, being the Ish Yehudi Haya B'Shushan Habira. And there are many, many more. It's like, there's a lot. There are a lot of different things, and it's not the time. We could have a whole shir of just like going in and out of these inyanim. I guess one of the most important things about that we see with Moshe Rabbeinu, we see by Mordechai HaYehudi. And that'll help us, before I forget, that'll help us sink our teeth into what we're talking about. But again, just the beginning, I could be Saimech on. And the end, I'm saying it, you'll understand why, because it's not so pashut, what I want to say. And I hope we get there. I think the beginning of what I want to learn with you is a famous statement is a famous statement by one of the big Mikubalim, one of the greatest Mikubalim we have. Someone's a giant. It's mamish. This is a tzaddik that when you say the word of where he's from, which is Kamarna, Reb Isaac of Kamarna. Kamarna was one within Chassidus, one of the most hidden, mysterious tzaddikim that ever was and ever will be. Reb Isaac of Kamarna. Even today, they're like their own thing. They do their own thing, deep, Kabbalistic. It's all, you open up the Sfarim, you barely understand a word. Kamarna. Actually, Rav Tzvi Leshem is very plugged into Kamarna. It says a lot about it. They're very plugged in Yidden. So in the Sfarim, this statement from the Kamarna is well known. It's well taught. This has been mentioned quite a lot. And I want to read for you his statement to give us an aspiration for Purim. Because as much as, Baruch Hashem, we've had plenty of Purim shiurim v'chulei, who could say they're ready for Purim? Like, who could say they're actually ready for Purim? So Rav Isaac of Kamarna says like this, V'kibalnu. Okay, just that word alone is like pretty much a bomb. V'kibalnu. What does that mean, v'kibalnu? We received. Who's we and what's from where? V'kibalnu. We'll leave it at that. V'kibalnu. Shebimei Purim yuchal la'alot. No, he said yuchal la'alais neshama ktana leheichal shel tzadik mufla bli shum me'akev. That means, usually, our spiritual growth knows it's a ladder. It's dargot. It's levels. It takes a lot. You have to work on yourself a lot. That takes you to the next level, and then that takes you to the next level. Step after step after step. Rabbi Isaac of Kamarna is saying over here, kibalnu. Okay, we received this Masorah somehow. That the smallest neshama, now what does that mean? I don't know what a neshama ketana or neshama gedola means literally, but in the context of our learning, it means a yid that really knows he's not prepared for Purim, okay? Or it means a yid that thinks he's so prepared for Purim till he realizes he didn't really do anything yet. But however way you look at it, neshama ketana. Neshama ketana is a person that can't come and say to you, I chazed the Megillah, I actually did a siyum, Masechta Megillah, I have it all down. I know my stuff. I'm ready. I have all the drushes. And this year at the Tish, it's going to come out like a Mayan Noveh. The Torahs are going to come out like it's no one's business. Neshama Ktana. I don't know. I'm barely still holding by the halachas of Sukkah. Purim's here. Kibalnu shebimei Purim yuchal lalos neshama ktana leheichal shel tzadik mufla. That the smallest person can go up to this heichal, this chamber of a tzaddik mufla, a wondrous, godly tzaddik, bli shum me'akev, without anything stopping you, without anything in your way. Vum, you go right up. We have the same inyan, the same lashon almost by the Zohar Kodesh, when it comes to Leil Pesach, a night of Mochin de Gadlus, that also what usually takes us spiritually to reach is a lot of work. Somehow by Purim, when we say it's by Pesach, boom. There's almost this elevator that just takes you right up. V'chen olim kol hatfilos. This is really the if anyone has any familiarity with this lashon of Chassidus, this statement is never said. V'chen olim kol hatfilos leketer, bli shum me'akev. Okay, what's keter? Besides, a good nigun and now we daven Nisach Svard. Musaf. What's Keter? Keter is the highest place where we can relate to anything in the world of spheres of God's emanations. Again, this is not we're not going into explaining these things, but whatever you think is the highest chamber in Shemaim of your speech before Hashem reaching HaKadosh Baruch Hu Kivyochel, whatever that means to you, and there's no right or wrong, that's Keter. Okay? Whatever that means, that's the crown. So you have all the chokhmah, you think you know, all the wisdom, but then where do you place the crown? Above the place that you think you know. Vehi cheter leroshecha. You already see where we're going with this. Ad lo yada, nachon? Wherever I think I know, then keter is even above that. So he says all the tefillas of a yid on Purim go up to Keter bli shum me'akev, without anything coming and being any type of mechitza, without anything interrupting. Zot omeret. And you know, Chaver, we've had so many Purims. Me'ez Hashem will have another amazing Purim, and just again, just letting everyone know, in our home from 4:30 on, right, love? Yeah, okay. From 4:30 on, the doors open, and everyone, we're there until Yud Tes, whatever it is, right? We all know we have that moment on Purim where there's like one word we feel like saying. Last year, someone walked in and screamed, "I want to be a Levi," right? There's moments, right? He is, by the way, he was a Levi. I'm saying he is a Levi. There's always this pinnacle moment where you feel like right now it's not about who's the funniest, what's the coolest shalach manas, who had the best costume. It's vehi cheter l'roshecha, keter. Up there, up there. When that happens, don't plan it. These are things you can't plan. Again, you go to this place of keter with your tefillas. That means that somehow all year long you try, you work with your tefillah, hachana l'tefillah, all the different preparations. But then on Purim, in akol nifratz, you go right to there. He says, and this was all he said, kibalti. He's like, by the way, I was told this. Again, how, who? But then he says, kol ze kibalti belichisha. The Kamarna says, I received all this with a whisper. Just leave it at that. And then he says, v'naseti holech rachil. Now, what do we know what the word rachil means? Usually? Kilo, you're sharing stuff you shouldn't say, right? Saying, it's true, I got this as a secret, but if you and I are sitting here hundreds of years later and we're learning about it, it means he wasn't a good secret keeper, right? He says, it's okay. You know why? Me'avas Yisrael. He says, because I love Yidden so much, and if I found out that this thing actually happens, I need to let every Yid know that it's asur, b'tachlisa isur, to compromise on your tefillah on Purim. Asur b'tachlita isur, to compromise on your tefillah on Purim. Kol ze kibalti b'lechisha. Something very secret. Lo yedem hazeh. Now, what shouldn't you compromise on when it comes to your tefillah on Purim? And I want to build with you a mahalach that is straight really from Moshe in the context of Moshe Rabbeinu being be'emet the pnimius of the Megillah. Again, there are many, many other Torahs that we could say to explain how Moshe Rabbeinu is appearing through the Megillah. But even with the little bit that we saw, and we're going to repeat it here by learning one midrash. Rav Kluger said a beautiful thing. We were learning this last week. He said, when it comes to Purim, you got to be very careful. You know it's so deep, it's all about secrets, so everyone runs to all the craziest Tailach that they could ever imagine. But in the meantime, they're forgetting, if you just learn Megillas Esther Pshat, he says, open a Rashi, follow it with the Midrash Rabbah, you're fine with Esther Rabbah. You have plenty on your plate. In fact, tonight at dinner table, I don't know why exactly, but our daughter, our third daughter, Ahava, she decided that she started leaning Megillas Esther at the table, just reading it. And I remembered the Torah from Rav Kluger, and I caught myself completing her sentences, showing her what a cool Abba that knows a few of the, and then I was like, shut up, just listen, right? Just listening to the flow of the Megillah alone, just the flow of the Megillah alone. Hakol Shama. So tonight, I wanted to learn one midrash in one line in the Gemara to understand what could help us with knowing what is it worth to shoot up to the stars on the level of Keter when it comes to our davening. Look what the midrash says. Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushana bira. I'm sorry, but I'm so happy I don't have enough copies. Okay? Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushana bira. Ish melamed shaya Mordechai shakul bedoro kemoshe bedoro, like we said before, because the lashon of Ish is used in the context of Mordechai HaYehudi. So we see in the context of Ish was also used by Moshe Rabbeinu. Ish melamed shaya Mordechai shakul bedoro kemoshe bedoro. Dichsiv bei ve'aish Moshe anav me'od. Ma Moshe amad b'peretz. Dichsiv Vayomer in Tehillim, Vayomer lahashmidam lulei Moshe bechiro amad b'peretz. Af Mordechai ken dichsiv doresh tov le'amo v'dover shalom lechol zarot. It's such a beautiful midrash. What does it mean that Moshe Rabbeinu was standing in the Peretz? Just like Moshe Rabbeinu could not see the picture unfold in front of him of the Ribono Shel Olam deciding and saying, Gamalti itchem, Yehudim Kedoshim, Holy Yidlach, you're just not worthy. You messed it up. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't take it. David HaMelech says Moshe Rabbeinu was one standing and blocking, so to speak, blocking Hashem from moving on with his decision to say, Yalla, Yidden, it was nice, Allah. Moshe stands in the Peretz. Mordechai Ayudi also is standing there and he's saying, I cannot see the story go by. I can't see the story unfold. I can't see Am Yisrael. I can't see this decree. Moshe and Mordechai. Ish kind of means over here that en ma la'asot. I'm stopping. I'm standing there on the block and I'm not letting you pass, so to speak, right? I'm not letting you pass by. Lo mishaneh ma. And by the way, when you have that feeling of standing in the block of Am Yisrael being nimchatz, don't look for the Shulchan Aruch to tell you how to act. There's no halach. There's nothing that's going to tell you how to act. There's something that can tell you in the big picture, nimusim, midot tovot, vechule. But in a certain place, and we see this similar actually by Moshe and who else in the Torah, when it came to real Mesiras Nefesh, Pinchas, the same Indian, meaning you have something inside of you that's burning inside of you that sees Am Yisrael crumbling in front of your eyes, you become an ish or an isha. It doesn't matter. You understand what I'm saying? You have this aspect of an ish. That's what the Midrash begins, and then he continues and it says, you want to know also why Mordechai and Moshe the same zach? Ma Moshe limed Torah liYisrael dichsiv re'eh limati etchem chukim u'mishpatim. Af Mordechai ken dichsiv divrei shalom ve'emes. Moshe Rabbeinu is the transmitter of the Torah to us when we received the Torah in those years in the desert. Mordechai Ayudi is the transmitter of kiemu v'kiblu. The kibel haYehudim es asher chelu la'asos. Mordechai plays that exact role of someone that merited to be the transmitter, the channel through which Am Yisrael had Torah. Pseder. Ad kan, more or less, we know, and we can understand this a little bit. But there's a prat here in Masechet Megillah that's going to open up everything for us. Still, what is this deep chuta mekasher? What is this deep line that connects Moshe and Mordechai and Melech HaMashiach? You know I'm so happy. You know what I'm so proud of? That someone pointed this out to me a few weeks ago in Shul. He says, you guys are all Meshichistim here. It's like, what are you talking about? There's no flags up or anything. What do you mean? He's like, you guys keep on talking about Mashiach all the time in Shul. And, I mean, it broke my heart, actually. It actually broke my heart. Like, I mean, what else is the whole thing of coming back here and building Eretz HaKodesh and everything? And what is it? Like, what else is it? What does it have to be? What else is it supposed to be? And we keep on speaking, but we keep on coming back. But Purim, for Purim to end off, K'mo shetzarich, it has to culminate with Mashiach coming. Because like we said, the story of Purim itself ended off with an attempt thinking this is now going to bring Mashiach. We're going to go home to Eretz Yisrael and build the Beis HaMikdash. As we said this morning in Shir, what was the percentage we came up with this morning in Shir? So how many Jews came back to Eretz Yisrael? 2. Right. We're not so far from that percentage still in the world. Something about the tefillah of a yid through the pnimius of Purim can attach us to what the point of the ending of Purim should really all be about. But there's a midah that must be part of our ish, of our Moshe and our Mordechai, and definitely our Esther HaMalka. Asher hogla mirushalayim, im hagola asher hogleta, im Yochania melech Yehuda, asher hegla Nebuchadnezzar melech Bavel. We say in the Haggadah, in the Megillah, we say it every year. I don't know how it is. By the Sfardim, they changed the Nusach? You don't think so? At that moment, when we changed that Nusach into Eicha, it's almost a reminder of what Purim is really all about. Huh? Thank you. It's a reminder about what Purim's all about. This story was going to be the Hemshech of Tisha B'Av. This story was going to be the Hemshech of Tisha B'Av. And for a moment in history, it took away Tisha B'Av for the moment. The famous Shaila of Soloveitchik has a whole mimer on this. Did they commemorate Tisha B'Av in Bayit Sheni? Right? We learned this once on Tisha B'Av. Because it seems to be, why would they commemorate Churban HaBayis? Why would they commemorate Churban HaBayis in the Bayis, right? So it's a long story there. A lot of different deos and the Ran. A lot of the Rishonim speak about this, but when we hear those words, Asher, with that tune of Eicha, who was Mordechai? He was in the Beis HaMikdash. Mordechai was in the Beis HaMikdash, and he, it seems, based on the pshat of the Psukim, Nebuchadnezzar came, Heglauto. He kicked him out. He threw him out. But the Gemara says something very interesting. Amar Rava, Shegala me'atzmo. I love this Gemara. Shegala me'atzmo. That means Mordechai HaYehudi read the writing on the wall. He smelled what was going on. He saw where we were heading, and he said, I'm going in first. Gala me'atzmo, Rashi explains this over here, Shelo haya keshar Yisrael shegalu al korchan. It wasn't like the rest of Am Yisrael that were forcefully thrown into galut. Elama, hu gala me'atzmo. He took this on himself. He brought this on himself. Kmo she'asa Yirmiyahu shegala me'atzmo. Just like when Yirmiyahu Hanavi, he smells the writing on the wall, and who's gala me'atzmo? He didn't. It was his own doing, saying, "This seems to be what's going on. I'm going to go there first to make sure that we get out of there fastest and to make it the easiest on the Jewish people." Where else do we see in the Pnimius Torah a struggle between two people choosing to go down into the darkness first? And Yehuda, right? They knew that according to what Zaidi Avi, what Avram Avinu told them, right? What was revealed to him with his bris with Hashem, this is the map, this is the plan, this is how it unfolds. You got to go down. And each one of the avos, you see, like they kind of were makabel it on themselves. Besides one, who's there? Yitzchak, where you have a whole teaching there. Some say, like with Akedas Yitzchak, he was either just mevatel the whole thing, or so he thought, of having to go down into galut and suffering. But when it comes to Bikesh Yaakov Lishev Bishalva, Kafatz Alav Rogzo Shel Yosef, in Parashat Vayeshev, the Mefarshim explain, is that Yaakov Avinu thought, it's done, I did it, my kids don't have to go into Galus. Why? Because I went into Galus. This whole parsha with my brother Esav wasn't so simple. In Kafatz Alav Rogzo Shel Yosef, Yosef HaTzadik says, Abba, no, it's not over. And not just that, it's me. I'm taking it upon myself to go down. And then as you see the unfolding of the brothers with Yehuda in the pnimius of it, and you all know Yehuda, Yosef, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, there basically is this struggle over who's going to be the one that's going to go down. Meaning what? Who's going to act like Mordechai HaYehudi and Yirmiyahu Hanavi really did? Who's going to be the one that's going to be Moser their nefesh no matter what, even if it means losing everything they had? As long as they knew they were shalem with themselves to go down, regardless of knowing what the outcome would be. Where do we see this in Megillas Esther? Uvechein avo el hamelech asher lo kadat. I don't know exactly where I'm holding, if it's proper. I always like to say, I don't know how frum I am, asher lo kadat. I don't know how frum I am right now in this moment. I don't know what it's going to look like. And the outcome, and then regarding outcome, she says, V'chasher avadati, avadati. I don't know if it's going to work. I have no idea. But I have to live a life filled with meaning. I have to live a life that I could say, not only I gave it a good shot, all of me gave it a really good shot. I'm looking around this room, packed with people that left everything to come and be here in Eretz Yisrael. Do we know? We'd like to believe very strongly that we know. It's us. We were the last door to have to suffer in Galus. We know that, right? We know we would like to think that. We know we would love to think that. Please Hashem, we would like to believe that, and we really believe that. However, in the pneumius of things, saying I know for sure it's me doesn't smell so holy. Going in like Esther Amalka, going in like Mordechai, going in like Yirmiyahu and Avi, and we're going to see this is really what Moshe Rabbeinu was all about as well. Going into the scenario of the context of Am Yisrael and saying, I don't know if I have all the answers, and I don't know if it's really all going to be dependent on me. But how do I have the chutzpah to live my life not giving it the best shot of the all of me? How can I go about my life? How could I go about my decisions in my life without acting like this? Now, gala me'atzmo, I want to say is a fuch over here. All of you, galite me'atzmechem mi'eretz ha-target. You all left the comfort, right? You all left. I mean, now it's catching up to us with Amazon Prime and everything, but it's like following us. It's like, I left Golos. No, I'm following you, coming after you. But there's a bechina of that each of you left something. Each of you left something that you did it me'atzmechem. You did it me'atzmechem in a crazy way. It's like the flip side of it. Yeah, you're coming to Eretz HaGeulah. But for many of you, coming here and someone going like this to you for the first few months of sitting behind desks, it's almost worse than, Shushan, Chas v'Shalom, right? And ma la'asot, this is how it's unfolded. Vehi Keter le'roshecha. So I want to go back to the beginning now and slowly piece everything back and build it back up again. You know, this sefer, this is a beautiful sefer. Sharvit HaZahav. This is an important sefer. Sharvit HaZahav. What does Sharvit HaZahav mean in English? The golden scepter, right? Who has the Sharvit HaZahav? HaMelech. HaMelech. But Tiga Berosh HaSharvit, there's all these different deep Torahs about our access to the Sharvit HaZahav in the sefer of Esther. Rav Kluger said something so incredible that I bechavana did not want to try to remember this during Seuda's Purim, so I'm saying it now, right? By the way, the real Torahs don't bank on, this is one I'm going to say at the Seuda. It doesn't usually come out, and no one can hear you. And it's a screaming match in the room. It's just a screaming match. It doesn't really work, right? So friends, we are living in a time where we have access to the Sharvit HaZav like we never had before. Access. I'm not saying we're holding there. Access to it. Rav Kluger says, you know what Sharvit stands for? This is crazy. He says, Sharvit, scepter, Rashi Tevis, Rebbe Yisrael, Baal Shem Tov. Crazy Rashi Tevis. I don't usually freak out from Rashi. Gematrias do it more for me. Rashi Tevis, I don't know. This Rashi, I don't know. I saw this and I just loved it. And pashut nafalti. The Baal Shem Tov's main nekuda was basically the first thing that we saw by Rabbi Isaac of Kamarna. His chidush, one of his main chidushim, was really telling every Jew that in a certain level, every day can be Purim if you're willing to go there. On what level? Of going all the way up, not probably to Keter, that's what Purim is open for, but believing that I can avol el hamelech, that I can come before the king. Just simply come and showing up before the king. V'tiga berosh hasharvit. V'im el hamelech tov, im tzachem v'chesed lefanav. What the Torahs of the Baal Shem Tov have done to so many of us when we really sit with them, not as vorts, but as a mahalach in life, as a way of living our life, not as a vort that you say at the Shabbos table. Because honestly, the Baal Shem Tov doesn't have really vorts. That's not the Baal Shem Tov's thing. They tried, they put together all these different svarim and everything. It's not the Baal Shem Tov vorts. Vorts you leave for other tzaddikim. The Baal Shem Tov is a tnu'ah of the nefesh. tnu'ah of the nefesh. It's motion of the soul. It's taking a person that says, I'm not a davener, and flipping his metzius on his face. Flipping it over. Completely flipping it over. Because usually you think that in order to be a davener, what do I have to have in my arsenal? Like, what are the things that I need to have? What do I have to be made out of? What's that? Patience. Wow, very strong one, Mata Esther. Patience. He's actually a patient fellow. Yeah, no, but okay, I could see that. What else do you have to have in order to think I could become a davener?
An open heart.
Huh? An open heart. Easy stuff. Yeah. Huh? Kavana. Kavana, chibur, connection. You know what? The Frum answer is yes. The Breslover answer is no.
That's what people think they need to have.
Right. Nachon. No. I'm saying that's what they think. Nachon. I'm saying back to the person, ki'ilu, I'm not holding, so I don't have the Ivrit. It's not so chazak for me. But all these things, we see that on Purim, we go past anything we think we need in order to be a davener, and before I know it, I'm in a state of dveikus. I don't even realize it. I'm already there. When I surround myself with the mitzvahs of Hayom, when I follow and I learn the Megillah, and I learn the mahalach of the life of Mordechai and Esther, and especially here, I go to Moshe, Mordechai, and Esther, and I'm saying, wait a second, I may not be a davener, but am I a yid that has Mesiras Nefesh? Is that part of my life? Do I stand up? Do I take the plunge? Would I take a bullet for another yid, chas v'shalom, if that needed to be? Would I take a bullet for Am Yisrael? Would I stand in the way if I see Am Yisrael crumbling down? Would I stand in the way even of God and say, I'm not a davener, I don't go to tishes, it's not my thing, but I can't see this happening to my people. I can't see it happening to my people. The tnuah of the nefesh is a tefillah, you understand? The movement of the soul itself is in itself a tefillah. When I live a life filled with meaning and mesiras nefesh, it doesn't matter how many words I'm saying or I'm not saying. Where is my life moving towards? What is the motion? Where is the tnuah of my whole existence? That's the sharvit. That's the Torah of the Rabbi Yisrael Baal Shem Tov. This is the Sharvit Hazahav. Taking a look at the context of everything in my existence and realizing, well, you know what? I actually do have this much more. I'm much more of a davener than I realized. Yeah, I'm not that person that sways for hours for now. I'm not that person that necessarily looks like the other chevra. But if and Alter Rebbe writes this throughout the Tanya, and especially in his Maimer Chayav Inish Lebesumi Bepuria, amazing Maimer we were zochet to teach 15 years ago, around this time, where my future wife walked into a shir, Eschus of Alter Rebbe. This is the pnimius of what happens to a Jew through Purim. Why is it that by the end of Purim, we're screaming tefillahs and nigunim? Because we became a tefillah. Through the story of the Megillah, we become a tefillah because we realize that if we were Mordechai, or if we were Yirmiyahu Hanavi, or if we were Yosef, or if we were Yehuda, we would do the same thing. We would do exactly the same thing. Such a chutzpahdik thing to say. We would even stand in the way of God and say, I'm sorry, I believe in my heart of hearts that you want me lihitnaged elecha right now. You want me to oppose you right now, Hashem. That's what you really, really, really want. Obviously, this is the essential difference between Noach and Avram. Noach's fine with a story like Shushan happening in his time, as long as he's not nichlal. Avram Avinu's not, and that's why that's the sod of our Masoret. Avram Avinu is with Yirmiyahu. He's with Mordechai. I should say afuch. Mordechai, Yirmiyahu, Avram Zainiklach, his great-grandchildren, Yosef, Yehuda, they're with him. But friends, they became tefillahs also, like the person that says they're not a davener. And before they know it, when they tune into Mesiras Nefesh of what they're willing to do l'man Am Yisrael, you are not only are you a davener, you are a tefillah. like David HaMelech said about himself. Va'ani tefillah. And I always think to myself, you know, the David HaMelech, was he born with a harp in his hand? Like, was this just like, was he just, perhaps maybe he was off tune, maybe he didn't have, what do you call it when you can't carry a tune? Tone deaf? I don't know. We would think, probably not. But I don't know, because it says about all the tzaddikim that as much as we know Avram Avinu as the midah of chesed, he became the midah, he is the midah of chesed because of a kinyan that he made on the midah of chesed. Yitzchak was the midah of gvura because he made a kinyan on the midah of gvura. Meaning, they weren't born like this. They made a kinyan, they made an acquisition in their life, which then we know them now as certain people with certain titles, but that's because that's the shem shekanu la'atzman be'olamam. That's what they bought for themselves. If I would go up to any of you 10, 20 years ago, and I'd ask you the following questions, would you leave your whole comfort zone and move to Eretz Yisrael and be so b'simcha and b'shleimus? It's easy now to say for sure. Try to go back, okay? Or if I'd ask you, would you find yourselves in your state of religious life going to Minyan and learning Torah every single day? 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 2 years ago for some people, yesterday for some. And then when you realize, oh, this was my kinyan, this is what I became, you become that which you thought you're not. Avram Avinu didn't think that Tzanzer Rebbe said, the Divrei Chaim, I think we just mentioned his name recently, the Divrei Chaim. Shabbos, right, Friday night we mentioned his name. The Divrei Chaim said Avram Avinu was the stingiest person ever born in his time. And he said, before you want to throw a chair at me, right, I said this, understand, it was Dafka, that he was born like this with the stingiest tzad of this midah of chesed, which made him a person that's known by what he acquired in this world. Our job, our tafkid, in every door, and I would like to say in this door more than any other door, because it also sounds very dramatic, but I also believe that. Our door is to be anashim that become daveners, that become a tefillah, not just become daveners. We become tefillahs, we become a serious nefesh nekayidim. We follow the story of the Megillah and we realize this is the way to become an ish Yehudi. An ish Yehudi, gala me'atzmo. No one's forcing me to take on right now to represent the Mesirus Nefesh flag. The Chernobler has a great Torah, Reb Motel Chernobler. Lo nitna, the Gemara says, Lo nitna haTorah ela le'ochle haman. The Torah was given to the generation of those that ate manna. So he has a great taich on this, Chassidish taich. He says, man is Rashi Tevis. Come on, we're in the Rashi Tevis night tonight. Mesirus Nefesh, right? The Torah is only given to someone that the reason for their sustenance of eating, the reason that they do anything, is not so that they have koyach to do the right thing. It's to have koach that when they need to have mesirut nefesh, they do. When is the time to daven for this more than ever? This is the nekuda of Keter on Purim. Why? Because mesirut nefesh is lemala mehadat. Mesirut nefesh doesn't add up logically. You can't understand or explain or rationalize when you accept upon yourself mesirut nefesh or act with mesirut nefesh. If you do, you're already out of mesirut nefesh and it just becomes the right thing to do. Mesirut nefesh is something much, much, much bigger, much greater than this. I'm humbled because I the little that I know so many of you, and we've shared so many things over the years. I'm humbled because I'm sitting around people that are lo nitna haTorah ela le'ochle haman. Sometimes I just want to clarify, mesirus nefesh at a certain point can mean that you realize that the Torah that you have to teach the whole world is the Torah of being a mensch when it's the least attractive thing. Just to be a mensch being mesirus nefesh, and reminded of your radio show. What was it called?
The Derech Eretz Hour.
The Derech Eretz Hour, right. What a great program. I used to love, I think I was on one of them. I used to love listening. What's that? The first anniversary. I used to, I loved it. So that's one level of Mesirus Nefesh, and obviously we're speaking about right now seeing Am Yisrael where they're at, and davening so strong that when we need to have Mesirus Nefesh, that we end up having it. And it's a very, very high place to say B'Shleimus. But how do we know that the Ribono Shel Olam is masking to this tefillah more than ever? Okay? Now here's, I'm saying don't quote me as we're broadcasting live and there's all these people here, but I'm just saying this is what I told in the beginning of Shir that I'm still in the middle of, but it seems to me so obvious. The Torah from the Sharvit, I'm going to start referring to the Baal Shem Tov as the Sharvit. The Torah of the Sharvit says like this, Hashem tzilcha al yad yaminecha, right? Hashem is your shade. Meaning, kivyachol, that whatever you do down here is, so to speak, like also done up there. The way Reb Shlomo said this so sharp, my God. He says, whatever you think of God, is really as much as God is for you. So to merit, God is everything, but however you put him in, whatever category you put him into, that's how much God will play a role in your life. Okay? Hashem tzilcha, Hashem is like your shadow. Not just your shade, he's like your shadow. Now listen to this. Every time that a Yidla does something holy, I want to say that there's ki'ilu, a shadow of that up in Shamayim. Right? Meaning, there's a mimicking of it up in Shamayim. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to tell us this coming Shabbos. He's going to tell Hashem what this pasuk in Tehillim that the Midrash quoted. Lulei Moshe Bechiro Amad Baperetz. If it wasn't for Moshe Rabbeinu standing in the doorway of destruction for Am Yisrael, oy ve'izmir. But Moshe Rabbeinu, and no one told him to do this, he tells God the three most chutzpahdik words that ever existed. And what are those three words? Mecheni na misif. I would say maybe 5 even, because Asher Katafta is pretty in your face, you know. Mecheni na misifrecha asher katafta. This has been a beautiful date. It's been amazing. Been a nice first 80 years of a lot of drama. And now we had this past kufa of just like craziness going on. But Ribono Shel Olam, if this is the end of the story, please make sure that I'm not even mentioned from the beginning of the story. I don't want to have any part in this. What a chutzpah. And we know, obviously, with the famous Torah that the Zohar says, Mecheni, it's the same letters as Mei Noach, right? Wipe me out is the same letters, the Tikkun, for what Noach didn't do. That's why the Navi refers to the Mabul as Mei Noach. It's really the waters of Noach. Moshe Rabbeinu comes, he says, Mecheni, wipe me out. I don't want to have anything to do with this thing called Yiddishkeit. If you're going to look at Yidden that fell, and they fell low. But if you're going to say Gamarnu, take me out even from the first parak, from the first few minutes together. I don't want to have any zecher of being together. And the Ribono Shel Olam responds to Moshe Rabbeinu in a very interesting way. He doesn't tell him, I'm so happy you said that. He just reveals something to him. What does he reveal to him when he says, Mechenina misifrecha asher katafta? What becomes revealed to Moshe Rabbeinu? The Yud Gil Midas Rachmim, compassion in the world. Yefeh. But when does Moshe Rabbeinu get a response from Hashem saying, Hashem tzilcha, you're so right on. You're so right on. Hashem Yisbarach is letting Mordechai HaYehudi know about a crazy story that's going to happen to Am Yisrael. And he's waiting for Mordechai to also act like Moshe Rabbeinu. And he's basically saying to him, to Mordechai, who the Gemara says was the one that wrote the Megillah, Mecheni na misifrecha asher kasafta. Wipe me out from the book that you're writing. And that's exactly what ended up happening in Megillah's Esther. Just like Moshe Rabbeinu's name is not in Parshas Tetzaveh, Hashem's name isn't in the story of Megillah. Why? We always say that's the connection between Tetzaveh in the pnimius of it, it's basically, I want to say, it's Hashem Yisbarach's haskama after the first Kabbalah Satorah that went a little bit off to Moshe Rabbeinu saying, I created Yidden to become Mesiras Nefesh Dika Yidden, and I emulate your ways when you're willing to go all the way there. All the way there. Even I, Hashem, am going to take out my name and my revealed glory from this precious moment in history, which is Kisvuni Ledoros, which is going to be the greatest holiday till Mashiach comes, and I'm going to take my own name out of it. Why? Because Mordechai, you chapped it. You got what it's all about. You got what it's all about. I've been with, this whole story was that I did all this, Hashem Yisbarach is saying, not saying, waiting for someone to get up and say in their own words, Mecheni na misifrecha asher katavta, which is essentially what Mordechai and Esther are saying, and there are a lot of different ways to play this out throughout the Megillah. We don't have time for it. But there's a lot of ways of understanding. This is exactly what Mordechai and Esther were really harping on. This is the or of Keter. So the Kamarna says, if you find yourself on Purim, see, doing this sober would be very, I don't know what the right word is, nearly impossible, okay? What I want to say is that the whole drive of Purim is to lead you to a moment in your own, it doesn't have to be a proclamation to everyone that's in your house. It could be alone, locked yourself in a closet or something, I don't know what. To reach this place of saying, Hashem Yisbarach, I am chalashing, I'm begging you, I want to be a Yid that has the holy audacity to reach a level of saying Mecheni na misifrecha while I see Jews being slaughtered, and while I see thousands and hundreds of thousands of the most precious Jews that are keeping all Torah mitzvahs, but they're not hearing the kol dodi dofek, and they're not coming home. I want to stand in that way and saying it can't continue like this. I don't have the chutzpah to say this one like on a Wednesday in November, but here it's Purim, and the only thing I know is that Keter is available, which means the place of Me'aladat. All year long, I think that in order to daven for this, I have to have a whole plan as to how I'm going to implement my plan now of being this Mesiras Nefesh Yid. On Purim, any plans. I don't have any tochniyot. I have no plans. I have nothing to work with. I just know one thing. Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan Abira. And the holiday, like we say, the holiday of Purim is a holiday of becoming more and more Jewish. Rabim me'amei ha'aretz mityahadim. They're becoming more and more Jewish. Becoming more and more Jewish in the context of Purim means becoming more and more a Yid that's not willing, that can't continue living unless he has a Mecheni na moment during the seuda. And when you have a Mecheni na moment during the seuda, Hashem says to you, and you could hear it and see it, he says, I've been waiting for you to get to this place the whole time. Now just go and read the Megillah again. And notice that I did the same exact thing. I wiped my own name out. Once I saw Mordechai was basically saying the same thing that Moshe Rabbeinu was saying. We're doing great things. Everyone's doing great things. Am Yisrael's beautiful, doing amazing things. Everyone's so scared. Even what I said before, as sad as maybe a certain state of Am Yisrael is, Akol Beseder. Everything's going to be okay here. Everything's going to be okay everywhere. But that still doesn't give anyone a p'tor from becoming a Mesiras Nefesh Dika Yid. No one. To be Yotzei Purim, to be Yotzei Yedei Chovas Purim, Seder, the Dalet Mitzvah Sayom, plus the other three that we learned, which are like in between, Daraisa, the Rabbans, you can do all of them. But if I don't have a taste of that in my seuda, it's much, much harder for me to approach Pesach and I'll be like, okay, now I'm ready to be a Ben Chorin. Because only a Ben Chorin is really someone that could say such words. Reb Nachman said, it's a famous teaching by Reb Nachman, he started saying the Torah and he stopped, and he just said, Kol ha'atchalot mi Purim. All beginnings are from Purim. Because I think it's very easy, the moment that you realize that you have in you this DNA of Avram Avinu, of Moshe Rabbeinu, of Mordechai and Yirmiyahu, of Yosef and Yehuda, of Mashiach, that's when your life really begins. We should be zochet to be part of Vehi Keter leRoshecha, of davening for the whole world to find their makom in the seuda. And Be'ezer Hashem to take Reb Isaac Kamarner's words and share it with another Yid, even though this was a secret, but Me'avas Yisrael, let every Yid know, go for it. Go for that tefillah. Just go for it. Don't let anyone stop you. Even if the seuda ended, keep on going. It doesn't matter. Go for it until you identify yourself as a Mesiras Nefesh Yidla. Ve'ha'ir Shushan, how does it continue? Good. The joke I got today that was going around was, they ask a Litvak, end the sentence, Va'ir Shushan, Navocha. Va'ir Shushan, Tzahala v'samecha. L'chaim, Gediante